Today is day 307 from when the war began. And it is really devastating to think that we are coming up on the 1-year anniversary in less than 2 months now. And it's been 307 days and nights of agony, of heartbreak. I think particularly right now, we are all glued to our phones, and we've just been walking around with incredibly heavy and broken hearts for the last 10 months. And I could not think of a better speaker tonight than Ambassador Michael Oren, truly one of the great statesmen in Israel and one of the great historians of our time, to help make sense of the world that we're living in and the uncertainty that we face. I want to spend a few minutes talking to you about Birthright Israel, because as devastating as the last 10 months have been, the work that we're doing, I believe, is very inspiring, not just for now, but for the future. I want to spend just maybe 2 minutes, I know some of you, but I don't know many of you, just talking to you about how I came here. I'm literally here right now because of many of you in this room, and in rooms like this across the country, who advocated on behalf of my parents when they were living in the Soviet Union as refuseniks to come here to this country. And they came here in the late 1970s. And my childhood growing up in Brooklyn, New York, was like many Soviet Jewish immigrants living in America. We were very proud of our Jewish identity. We were very proud to be American, but we had absolutely no connection to Jewish life or to the Jewish community. And it wasn't until I stepped foot in college in the late 1990s that I experienced for the first time in my life a Shabbat dinner. I didn't go to a Passover Seder until I was a freshman in college. And then in 1999, I read about an incredible idea called Birthright Israel. And it was an idea at the time because it had not yet existed. And I applied for the very first trip, and I was rejected, waitlisted. Not the first or the last time in my life I was rejected. But then 2 days before the trip left, I got a call from my Hillel director with the 6 words that forever changed my life. Do you have a valid passport? And thankfully I did. And I went to New York Airport, and that trip totally changed my life. It was the very first Birthright trip. It was a remarkable experience. And for me, what was remarkable about it, it was the first time in my life that I understood what it meant to be part of the Jewish people, that we were never alone, and that I was part of a proud people dating back 4,000 years, and I wanted to be part of writing the next chapter of Jewish history. So I became obsessed with Israel. I kept going back to Israel. I graduated college. I spent 21 years working for AIPAC, which is one of the most important Jewish organizations of our time right now. And here I have to acknowledge Betsy Korn, who is former president of AIPAC and has done such remarkable things for the organization and for Israel. And then a year ago, as David said, I heard about this incredible opportunity to lead the Birthright Israel Foundation. And I went all in because I realized that Birthright changed my life, and I wanted to be part of ensuring that as many people as possible had this experience. And over the last 25 years, we have become the most ambitious Jewish educational project, I think, in Jewish history. We have brought, thanks to many of you who are supporters, 850,000 Jewish young adults to Israel. 850,000. In fact, if you are a Birthright alum or a Birthright parent or a Birthright grandparent, please raise your hand. Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. So you know the impact because it had an impact on your life as well, whether you're a parent or a grandparent. As David said, when your kids go through Birthright, it has an impact on you as well. And my own oldest daughter is 7 years away from her Birthright trip, which is incredible as well. So I want to share 3 quick things about how Birthright has evolved. Not only in the last 25 years, but really in the last 5 years. Number 1, most people know about Birthright as a free 10-day trip to Israel. And that is because for most of our existence, we were a free 10-day trip to Israel, and in many ways we still are. but there has been an evolution in Birthright that is really important. 14 years ago, we started Birthright Excel. And I know we have some Birthright Excel alumni, and we have Birthright Excel parents here. Birthright Excel, I can talk about it for an hour, but I promised David I'd only speak for a few minutes. It is a remarkable program, truly a remarkable program that is identifying and cultivating the next generation of Jewish leaders and philanthropists. We have over 1,000 applications a year for Excel, and we take in 60 participants every single year. And there are 60 Israeli participants, and they intern over a summer at the leading Israeli companies, and they spend the time on their evenings and their weekends understanding what it means to be a Jewish leader. And when they finish their summer, they are part of a fellowship that lasts a lifetime. And we have 14 years of Excel fellows right now who are truly leading Jewish communities and leading businesses and are giving back. And we are Birthright Excel is part of a larger cohort that's making sure that the future of Jewish leadership is strong and vibrant. 3 years ago, we merged and acquired with Onward. How many of you are familiar with Onward? Onward is an incredible program that, like Excel, brings people to Israel. Here we bring 3,000 participants a year to Israel for an entire summer to intern at an Israeli company and to understand what it means to be a Jewish leader. We can bring many more of them. There is no lifelong fellowship, unfortunately, like we do with Excel. But so many of our participants come to Israel on a 10-day trip, and they stay for Onward because they want to spend an entire summer in Israel to further their experience, to further their connection, and to further their Jewish identity by being in Israel for an entire summer. And 10 months ago, we started what has become a groundbreaking program, not only for Birthright, but I think for the Jewish world. In the days and the weeks following October 7th, we realized that we needed to be part of the rebuilding of Israel. And we couldn't wait until the war is over. And we also realized that there are thousands of people in America and across the world, young people, who want to be part of the rebuilding of Israel. So we put out a call to our alumni and to all Jews between the ages of 18 and 40 to come to Israel for 1 to 2 weeks to volunteer, and to volunteer on agricultural fields and logistical centers, literally to be part of the civilian war effort. We had no idea what to expect. We were flooded with applications. In the first few weeks after the war began, we had 700 volunteers come between November and December of 2023, and now, as of yesterday, we've had over 6,000 Jewish young adults from across the world come to Israel on a Birthright Israel volunteer program. We're going to have 8,000 volunteers total this year, and it's going to be a huge part of our work moving forward. And an overwhelming percentage of the volunteers are Birthright Israel alumni who've been looking for an opportunity to come back to Israel and to be part of the rebuilding and the rebinding of the two societies. And we have the 10-day trip, which most people know as why. But the point I want to make here is Birthright Israel has transformed itself from being a 10-day trip that I participated on in 1999 to being a suite of programs that are transformative, life-changing, immersive programs that fuel Jewish pride, Jewish connection, and Jewish resilience that we need now more than ever. So that's number one. Number two, we are doubling down on our educational programs. And again, here I can talk for an hour about the different educational components of Birthright, but the one that I want to highlight is our responsibility to reclaim Zionism. Zionism has been intentionally hijacked and destroyed. And there have been all these videos that we've seen of people chanting from the river to the sea, but they have no clue what river and no clue what sea. But we have to be honest that our kids don't know what Zionism is either. And even the ones that are thinking about it, think about Zionism as a political movement started by Theodor Herzl. But the reality is that Herzl was not the first Zionist. The first Zionists were Abraham and Sarah 4,000 years ago. And Zionism is our longing for our homeland in our ancestral homeland. And there's no better way to teach people about Zionism than by bringing them to Israel. And there are so many other components of our educational philosophy of our participants meeting with survivors and our participants meeting with hostage families. But our responsibility to reclaim Zionism for what it is a huge part of our work this summer and for years moving forward. And the last part that I want to share is the most important. We must ensure that we're providing an opportunity for every Jewish young adult to travel to Israel who chooses to go. Last year, 2023, before the war started, we were fortunate enough, thanks to the help of many of you, to bring 27,000 young people to Israel. That's huge. The flip side of that is that an additional 20,000 applied to go, but we did not have the resources to send them. This is an expensive endeavor, but we have the resources in our community to make sure that anyone who wants to go to Israel should be able to go. The cost for one participant to go on a 10-day trip is $5,000. The cost for an entire bus of participants, for 40 participants to go from campuses and communities across the country, is $200,000. For $200,000, we can change 40 lives. And we can ensure that they have a deeper connection to Israel and a deeper connection to Jewish communities and their own Jewish identity than they've ever had. And we need to do this on a grand scale. Because today, right now, literally right now, we have 1,000 participants in Israel. Last week, we had 2,000 participants in Israel. Right? Last week, we told every single participant who was in Israel that if they felt unsafe because of this rising escalation of hostilities, they can go home and we would pay for them to go home early. And of 2,000 participants, 50 decided to leave early. And of the 1,200 participants that were ready to go to Israel last week, 80% of them showed up on a Birthright trip. 80%. That demonstrates the commitment that these young people have to Israel and the need that they have to be in Israel. So I am confident that once it is safer to go to Israel, we're not going to have 1,000 a week or 2,000 a week. We're going to have so many more. And we must ensure, the people in this room and in rooms like this across the country, that we have the resources we need to send people to Israel and to ensure that when we have people apply, that we can send them there. And this work has to begin now because we're already logistically and financially planning for next summer. So as you listen to our alumni speaker later today, and as you think about our own responsibility to make sure that we can send as many people to Israel, me and my colleagues in the back of the room, Debbie and Allison, would love to speak to you about what more we can do, and we're happy to follow up and will follow up with all of you when this program is over. The last story I want to share, and then I want to introduce our great alumni speaker. I was hopping around from Birthright trip to Birthright trip a few months ago. It made me reminisce about my own Birthright trip when I was 19 years old. And I happened to be in the back of a room when there was one of our speakers, a 32-year-old CEO of a tech company in Israel, who, like many Israelis, dropped what they were doing on October 7th, went to their military base, and spent 4 months in Gaza. This guy has 3 young kids at home, and he left his family, like so many Israelis did, for months. And he was speaking to the group of American college students from California. And he was telling them that he fought on the Southern Front, and he went through the details, and he went through how rough it was, and how proud he was to do it. And then he talked about his friends and his siblings who fought on the Northern Front, and about the experience that they had on the Northern Front. And he said these words that I'll never forget, that we made sure that we were not going to lose the Southern Front. Because if we lost the Southern Front, we would lose Israel. And my friends and my siblings made sure that we would not lose the Northern Front. Because if we lose the Northern Front, we lose Israel. And then he turned to these college students. And he said, all of you, you are on the Western Front. And you have to make sure that we do not lose the Western Front. Because if we lose the Western Front, we will lose America. And if we lose America, the world will become a more dangerous place, starting with Israel. And to fortify the Western Front, there's a lot of work that we need to do. But it starts with fortifying our next generation of leaders. And by bringing them to Israel and by giving them the pride and the confidence and the resilience that they need to come back home, to stand 2 feet taller, that's the work that we do at Birthright Israel. So thank you for all that you do, and thank you for all that you will help us do over the next many months and years to ensure that we win the Western Front. Thank you.